Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Monster Hunter Stories 3. So we're going to finally jump into Act 3, and that is in Galyad. I don't know how to say it. Galyad. This section pretty quickly leads to you going through a couple cinematics and some interesting sort of stuff happening. So at the opening part of this chapter, as always, remember you need to kind of hit up as many monsty dens as you feel like going into to try to pick up the new monsties. And in particular, there is one that will be available in this next area that you really want to get a hold of if you're interested in actually doing the invasive species. And that is Almudron. Now, you could probably get away with a bear off, but you need something that can inflict mud status to be able to successfully complete one of the invasive species. So you'll want to pocket one of them. Almudron's the one that's most consistent with it. It's the easiest one to do. Now, other than that, there is really not much tricky about this, and I'm noticing something similar with Monster Hunter Stories 3 that I did with Monster Hunter Stories 2 back in the day, and that is the first half of the game, relatively complex, decent amount of stuff going on. There's still a lot going on. It's still very enjoyable. Like, I enjoyed playing through this chapter in retrospect. I always do the voiceovers after I'm done. But it does tend to sort of zoom in and get a little bit more linear, and things get just a little bit less complicated, like almost as if they designed the latter half of the game at the end of their development cycle and they're under a little bit more crunch. But you'll see what I mean as you play through this chapter. Just remember, there's technically 3 separate areas, so 3 different areas that you'd have to go through loading screens for to encounter in this area. And one of them is the first area we're in now, so go ahead and take your time and actually go into some dens, pick up some eggs, max out the amount you can carry, and then see what you end up picking up so that you can fill out your Monsterpedia as you go along. And also, anytime you're starting a new act, you really need to be grinding some stuff out to get some experience, because you're going to jump up about 10 levels or so pretty rapidly. And little bit of a hint for the next act after this one, you're going to need those levels because the acts get a little bit shorter, but the action in between gets significantly more intense. Just as another side note, if you're paying attention to the screen, you probably notice the character's by himself right now, other than with Rudy. So this is sort of a little side adventure you're doing with Rudy that's part of the main story. So you don't have access to all the other characters at the moment. So you may want to take that into account when rebalancing your Monsty team or your weapon loadout. Anyway, let's jump up to the boss of this first little subsection. Alright, so after walking your way through what are basically literally corridors, you find Almudron. And in his normal state, he does power attacks, so as per usual, you counter those with speed. Enraged, he does technical, so you counter those with power. And when he has the big mud bulb on his back, he will do speed attacks, and you counter those with technical. Other than that, you just want to try to destroy the little mud bulbs and things that he can put out, if you can, before he actually attacks you. He's weak against fire and ice, so Dread Queen Raytheon actually makes a good one in this if you've actually been working with her. I realized shortly before this fight that I haven't actually filled out her genes at all, so that's something that I need to get on. And if you're not doing that, that is another thing to consider. You have the right of channeling now. If you pick up a couple extra monsties that have genes that might be beneficial to your monsties, there's no reason to hold back and not grab some genes off of them to at least try to get a couple bingos on the bingo card for their genes. And it significantly boosts their stats. It makes them substantially stronger. But Almudron himself, he's really just functionally a normal Almudron that is being put out as a boss fight. So I'll let this one finish playing out, and I'll meet you when we start moving to the next area.
Seriously? chance! Watch out!
Give up! Ratha!
Calm down.
Are you okay? Nice! This'll do it! Amazing!
No! All right! Yeah! On to the next!
Alright, so as has become almost comically common, at least one of my recordings got corrupted, and so I'm missing the next boss that we encounter. So instead I'll just let you see some of my wanderings. More or less you come in and you end up having to wander over to the giant crystallized Lao Shen Lung. A few other things happen that I'm not going to mention explicitly, and you end up with a fight against a Feral Rakna-Kadaki. Now, he's pretty cool. Let me just go over a couple tips for him, even though I don't have the footage for it. And he really only has two modes. He has a normal state where he does technical attacks, so you can counter those with your own power attacks, and you can counterattack his power attacks with speed, and he does the power attacks while he's in the overheated state. Other than that, it's just the same sort of deal as normal with feral monsters. Whenever the glowing blue dust is out floating around them, don't attack the part that it describes as being covered in the crystals. Whenever the glowing dust is not around them, try to break that part. If you can successfully break the part that has the crystals on it, the difficulty of the fight drops to almost zero, and you're basically guaranteed a win at that point. That's just the rule of thumb with feral monsters. If you can live long enough to break the crystals on them, you can beat them. The trick is living that long, because they hit really hard up until the point where you basically depower them. And then at that point, whatever group-wide AoE they've been using gets nerfed to the point where they're really not that challenging to beat. This is also a pretty cool area to explore around and pick up some caravan stand markers, because unless you do the side stories, you're really not going to be sent back out here all that much to mess around and look around. There are 2 invasive species in this area, which I'll put into a separate video because they're not really absolutely necessary for the full guide. But one is a Diablos that opens up Tigrex, I believe, and the other one is an Odogaron that unlocks Zenogre. So check out that guide. It's worthwhile to pick up the Zenogre, especially if you got the Mizutsune before, because if you release both of them in the same area, as you rank them up, they will mutate sort of correspondingly against each other, but that's the only way to get Mizutsune to go all the way to Soul Seer Mizutsune, and it's the only way to get Zenogre to go all the way to Thunderlord Zenogre. So you can get both of their deviant forms just by having them in the same areas since they're rivals, and I think that's the only one that works like that. But yeah, actually, I believe this area that my guy's climbing around in right now, if you come here at night, this is where the Diablos is. And I'll just go ahead and give you the strategy for it. You need a hammer, and you need one that can do something like Meteor Strike. He'll burrow under the ground, and all I did was just kept doing Meteor Strike in the exact same spot over and over and over again. And eventually, he came out in the right spot, and that triggered the thing to win the fight. It's that simple, and it's probably one of the fastest ones to do. Odogaron's a little bit slower, and he's in a completely different spot, but him, you have to break his claws and apply Mud Blight to him. So I just had Almudron hit him with mud attacks every turn that Almudron had enough points to do it, and worked away at breaking his claws. As soon as you break his claws and he's covered in mud, next time he goes to do a big attack to you, he falls down and the fight's over. Neither one of them terribly difficult, but takes a minute. The Diablos one's mostly luck. Just spam the attack on the same spot. I'm sure there's a way to predict which one he's going to come out of, but I couldn't figure it out, so I just hit the same spot over and over and over, and eventually I won. He did beat me once or twice, but you just reset the fight and do it over. There's no penalty for it. Anyway, let's jump ahead to the next actual piece of the... which I guess I should actually mention is taking the little sand ship thing that was near the Ajara Khan fight to the main city hub. So you're going to the city at this point. As you can imagine, we're going to be skipping a whole bunch of stuff because this is mostly just story progression. You'll go to the city and talk to a bunch of people. And this part really is just run to point A, talk to some people, go to point B, talk to Rudy to basically take a nap, go back to point A again, talk to some more people, and then side stories will unlock. So, I mean, it's just the way it is when you go into cities. While you're here, buy some items if you're running low on stuff and that you want to buy. Check out the armor and weapons, see if you've unlocked any sort of upgrades. So, the upgrade system for this doesn't really notify you when you have the materials. You just kind of have to check the weapons that you like and see if you actually have some of the materials needed to upgrade the second one. Which is another good reason to actually fight a whole bunch of things and pick up a whole bunch of monsties. Because the monsties are good for fleshing out your team, but the fights are good for giving you parts to see if you can upgrade your armor or your weapons. But I've barely done any upgrades and done fine so far. I've got a lot of things at level 2 as far as my weapons go, but I haven't upgraded my armor at all. Although I'm really considering switching it out. Now, one small little tangent here. The main sort of character in this city that you've talked to when you first come, if you've not played any of the other Monster Hunter Stories games, that character is actually from the second one. I'm trying to sort of stay a little vague here because I try not to put spoilers in, but I figured people that didn't play the second game might be unaware of that. So, or if you vaguely had some sort of thing scratched around your head and like, that person seems familiar, they're from 2. And once you finish doing all these things, you will unlock the third set of side stories. So without further ado, let's jump into side story time. And now it's time to descend back into side stories. So this time around we're going to start out with Ogden, because why not? His are usually fun and relatively quick to do. This one's actually packed full of a lot of cinematics, And just to be honest with you, all you really have to do is go out to the central sort of desert area that has all the floating rocks in it and just follow the marker. Like if you travel to the watchtower in the Rococo Rocks area, you just kind of fly down to the closest shelf near it. And I'll show you in just a minute, because honestly, getting this fight initiated is a little bit of a pain in the rear. But that's where you're going to go to find the Legiana, and you just kind of stand there and watch a couple cinematics pass, and then it'll pop up. It's one of the easiest ones to actually get to the right location. Basically, as soon as you spawn into the area, you just look at your mini-map, and the marker's right there. You just turn around and fly towards that shelf. And that's all you got to do. You land on it, and quite a few cinematics will play. Well, not really quite a few, just a really long one will play out. And you'll find yourself looking at a Legiana flying around. Now, I'm not going to lie, for whatever reason, I just had a hard time actually hitting it. Part of that is because I forgot about the fact that you can fly up in the air, and as long as you're holding in the aim button or just not moving, you'll hover in place. So it'd been a lot easier to hit it if I had just gotten up in the air to begin with. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch, I think, like 5 minutes of me trying to hit it and then finally getting frustrated before I finally realized what to do. And we can jump straight ahead to the point where I hit it. Because you'll hit it, it'll fall to the ground, and then you kind of have to rush over to it so it doesn't recover and start flying again. Alright, so one thing I did notice, when you get a near miss, it'll usually cause it to hesitate. And then, there you go, one hit, and you just kind of jump straight down to it, run into it, and the fight starts. That said, this wasn't a particularly difficult fight. Well, it's not a particularly difficult fight once you break the wings. It's almost like a feral monster in the sense that once you break the appropriate part, it gets a lot easier. Now, you do need a bow for this to really have the easiest time with it. And of course, a fire bow is going to be the best one. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop and add a little note in the subtitles for this, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to wait till now to mention to you that bringing a bow is not a bad idea. I don't know, you might be able to hit it with a gun lance, but I just was playing around and tested out a bow with it, and it worked out pretty well. I mean, its health is going down pretty easily anyway, but while it's flying, it does significantly more damage. As soon as you actually start working on those wings, they go down really quickly. This wasn't a hard fight. I thought it was pretty entertaining, but I'll let it play out and pick back up once it's done. And as you can see, the wings are almost already broken, so see you in a minute.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Let's do this.
Let's calm down.
Amazing! Yeah! Thank you. Getting rough. Now's the time.
No!
How about this? We're out of time.
Watch out!
Now's our chance. Eyes up. Okay. How about that? Oh, that teamwork.
And now it's time for rewards. So, this time around we're going to be getting active skill enhancements for 2 different active skills, and a pitfall trap recipe. Pretty good rewards for this particular quest. Next up on the list, we are going to go through Thea's story, get us another pig race out of the way. I just figured we would start with some of the easier ones. Just remember to switch your weapon back around if you swapped it out for the Legiana, and then take you the catavan to whatever your closest travel point is to the little yellow dot. For me, that's the one right near the dragon, colossal dragon's remains. And yet again, not very hard one to figure out where the target's at. It's just right there in the open, because the first thing you have to do is kill a monster to get it to where the pig will come back around, because we're working on the theory that you've scared the pig off somehow. So let's go kill what it wants us to kill. We'll jump to the next fight. So we've got to take down a blood orange Bishotten. And I'll give you a little tip. If you can knock the monster over with a breath attack, it's probably not going to be that big of a challenge. And this is just a standard blood orange Bishotten, so it's not like it's even a special one. It just so happens to be territorial enough that I guess it was scaring the Poogie off. So just go through, do the fight like normal, and it's an easy fight, easy win. These aren't terribly difficult just yet. You'll use technical attacks when it's in its normal phase, and speed attacks when it's in its enraged phase, and you'll be able to counter anything that actually lets you do a head-to-head to counter it. But it's not a particularly challenging fight. I'm not really even sure that it's all that different from a standard Bishotten, so... I mean, by that, the other blood orange ones that are floating around the area. So, take it out, move on, and get to the fun part of this quest. So we're going to skip the fight, because really the fights in these are just kind of, I guess, to give you a cursory fight. Hers is all about the race. And after a little bit of dialogue, we get to go take on the Poogie in another race. Same rules as all the other ones, where you just need to hit as many of the red mushrooms as possible. And if you happen to see one, try to avoid the purple ones, and they do actually start popping up in this one. It's a little bit tight, and you do need to make this jump at the beginning, but you don't have to be perfect. It's one thing that we should have learned in the last one, or at least I learned in the last one. Unless you're in the second round and you're immensely behind, it will rubber band you up enough that you don't have to be perfect at all to win these. But the better you are, the more early on you'll actually get a little bit ahead, and it doesn't seem to rubber band the Poogie up to you quite as much as it does you up to it. Like, if you fall behind in the first go round, you're not going to be beyond hope. You just probably need to tighten it up a little bit. But it only took me 2 tries on this one. It's not terribly different than the last one. You can see I am going to win this race. I've not been executing it perfectly. Just execute it to the best of your abilities, and I'll meet back with you when we talk about the rewards. And as with the last one, you get boost to 2 active skills, and just the whole point of the 3rd chapter stories is to make your companions stronger and more useful overall. So, shouldn't be surprising at this point. And now it's time to move on to Elanor. Yet again, it's a fetch quest. Go get 3 items. One of them's a little bit more entertaining to get than normal, but if you want the cliff notes on how to do her quests, use the tower to look around, find the spots that they say there's where the thing is, then look at your map, and they'll be on your map. And then you just go to each of the 3 dots and do the thing that's at the appropriate place. If it's just to pick up an item, you just run over there and pick up the item. Just be sure to pay attention to what they're saying so you know whether you need to hit it with a fireball or something. The Ajaricon will be just right out there in the open, and you'll be able to do it. So, and there's, I think, bones that we're supposed to pick up. So, we'll see. I'll mark them all specifically. So, we're going to jump past the map part, and we'll go do the actual pickup. And here you can see me pulling out the map, and you can see all 3 of them marked clear as day on the map itself. So, we'll go get the items before we do the actual monster fight. This one actually requires talking to a vendor, and he gives you poignant piquant. Now, I wish I could tell you all you gotta do is default to the fight earlier, and this would be the exact same thing, but corrupt footage, this is the first time you get to see me fighting a Ajaricon. It's not really all that different than the Feral one that you had to fight for. Not Feral. Or no, Feral's correct. It's not all that different except for the fact that you don't have to hold back on which place that you're beating on him on. So, just go all out. And he'll go down pretty easily. He's not that hard of a fight. But you, on the plus side, you get some more materials to make some more Ajaricon weapons if you want. I always liked his stuff. I really like him in Wilds. I'm glad he's in here. At some point, I'll probably make one, but you'll see in the invasive species short why my team's kind of filling up pretty quickly, and he may not end up with a sort of starter slot, because I've got a pretty solid team put together, at least one that I actually enjoy. Honestly, my elemental diversity is not all that great. In normal mode, he uses technical attacks, so use power, and when he's overheated, he uses power, so swap to speed. Not a bad fight, just treat him like any other monster and you'll be fine. This is not meant to be a roadblock. But since you didn't get to see the Feral one from before, I'll just let this play out, because, like I said, the only difference is you have to let him get into a state where his back, or the crystals aren't having the dust everywhere to beat the Feral version. So, although if you're watching this, you probably don't need help with the Feral one. You probably already beat it. And if you beat it, you can beat this guy, because the Feral one was significantly harder than this one, because at that point in the story you hadn't had a chance to really level your team up in the new zone just yet.
Watch out!
Keep it up! Ready? There!
Okay, ta!
Elanor!
Got it! Nice work! Nice teamwork!
Yeah.
And the last part, we're just going to end out warping to a catavan standpoint to get us a little bit closer. And you just pick it up off the ground. It's just sitting out on the ground. You don't really have to do anything other than that. I'll let the video play out, show me picking it up, and then once I pick it up, I'm just going to jump straight to the reward screen, because once you acquire the last item, you just do like in all of her other quests. You go back to the hub area for this area, and the story will pick back up from there, and you'll get your reward. And with that done, you get some enhanced skills and some more cooking notes that let you get a couple more recipes. So, time to move on to the next side story. And it's time to have some fun with Gaul again. And the first little bit's literally just walking around the town, so I'll pick back up with you when we actually leave town and go do something fun. Alright, so we're supposed to be helping with a cave in the dig site. To be honest with you, it took me almost an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize exactly where the cave was. And it took me a minute to realize where I was actually supposed to be. So let's jump to the point where I'm going into the entrance so I can show you where you need to go. In case you're unclear where I'm at, this is where you went to fight the Ajara Khan earlier, but there's a little ramp that goes up on the right instead of going straight to come around to the bridge. You just go up, and there's a big ol' opening in the rock face right here, and that's the cave you need to go into. And you really don't have a whole lot of flexibility in terms of where you're going. You just kind of follow the markers. You literally can't get lost unless you're just like me and don't pay any attention to where you're going. I actually think what happened was I went up the ramp the first time around earlier and didn't see anything up there I could do, so I just didn't go up this time. Whenever this thing transforms, it uses speed attacks, so you can counter those with technical abilities and be fine. Just fight it like a normal monster. It's really not that hard. It fights a lot like a normal Nursilla, so you just go into the fight not really expecting that much of a challenge. But I'll let it play out anyway so you can see how it goes. It gets some good hits in, but honestly, if you spend even a little bit of time grinding, like I'm trying to basically work my way through the game for the most part, kind of as quickly as possible, because it takes a little while to put all this stuff together and get it out. So I'm not as overpowered as I could be. I would imagine if I spent some time actually grinding things out and maybe building up a bit wider variety of monsters to draw from, fights wouldn't be even remotely as hard, especially if I actually had a variety of weapons also to pull from. But if anything, that should show you you can just kind of power your way through the game if you learn exactly how the combat system works and you use the appropriate moves at the appropriate time and just kind of push your way through a little bit, at least for the story. Some of the side content, that might not be quite as true, and yeah, these are labeled as side stories, but they very much intend for you to do them. That's why they pause everything else while you do them. If they weren't really meant to be able to be played at that point in the story, they wouldn't completely disable the main story while you do them. They wouldn't want to sort of soft lock your game if you just weren't prepared for it. Anyway, I'll pick back up with you when this fight's over.
Ready!
Calm down.
Take that! All right. Going all in! How's this?
Watch out!
I won't lose. one. You too, Captain.
And that's probably one of the simpler Gaul missions to get enhanced skills and a couple actually pretty useful recipes. Ancient potions, dust of life, all that sort of stuff are actually really handy to have around. So, we have one side story left, with that being Kora, and as per usual it's going to end out with us exploring a cave where you follow the orange rocks to figure out your way into it. The hardest part generally of these is actually finding the cave entrance, and in my case, at least for the first one around, figuring out that I didn't actually have to fight all the monsters in it, and that you probably don't want. This one's actually not all that maze-like, and it has a little bit of a side story going on with it. It's just kind of deep, but we'll skip on forward to the fight at the end of this one because of that. It's just not quite as challenging as some of them have been in terms of seeing any sort of little tricks. Or at least by this point you should be so used to the verticality of things that it's not too terribly difficult to figure out your way around. Though it is worth mentioning, this wall is climbable. So you can just kind of leap the pit and actually climb up. And here in just a moment, you come across a rock that is breakable and actually gives you an air current. And it's useful to remember that this is a possibility for later, because those air current covering rocks become a little bit more common at a certain point in the story. And as usual, when you find the catavan stand, you know a fight's near. So save and jump to the fight. This fight's against a Shogun Centaur, which is actually not that bad of a fight. It is a little bit quirky in the sense that while there's still the skull shell there, it will do speed attacks, which means you'll need to use technical against it. No shell, it does technical, so you need to use power. And whenever it is in the seashell sort of shell, it'll use power, so you need to use speed. If it's the skull shell is when it's actually using speed attacks, by the way, so just pay attention to which type of shell it has, because when you smash the shell, it'll dig down in the ground at a certain point and pop back up and have a new shell. It is still not a hard fight. If you have an electric monster with you, then you can hit it with some electric attacks and potentially paralyze it, and that really stops a lot of the attacks from it. But yeah, it's not a bad fight, so I'll be quiet, let this play out, and we'll discuss the last rewards and close out this section of the guide.
You okay?
Don't push yourself.
Good going?
Watch out!
Nice one!
Yes!
Now's your chance!
I'll give it my all! We showed them! Okay. I won!
Keep it up!
Watch out!
job.
That's done.
And as is expected at this point, you get 2 active skill enhances, but you also unlock the Azure Armor recipe, which is a nice looking set. So there's that. You get the Mega Barrel Bomb recipe as well, which can be quite useful, especially if you want to go farm some Fate Lines. So now back to the main story. All you have to do is talk to Rudy to actually progress things, and once you've gotten the side stories. Now, I like getting them out of the way because these are actually seem to be significantly powering up your party as you go, but we'll jump over, talk to Rudy, and he'll initiate everything for us to board another sand ship and go to the next area. Well, the next area within this act, not the next entire area. We're not quite at the act boss yet. This is the guy you want to talk to for the ships, by the way. And we're going to Death's Maw. It's a much more pleasant place than it sounds. So, to give you a fair warning about one of the things that happens in this spot, it's really, yet again, not hard to navigate as long as you kind of pay attention to the audio cues when you're moving around. And this is one of the few little cinematics that I'm going to actually let play out, because there's one thing that I didn't think about. It shows that rock, similar to one of the ones that you had to pop in a cave in a side story. You need to break them. I was just messing around and flying and thought, oh, okay, cool, whatever. I can reach all these places anyway. Well, no, actually. There are a few spots that in order to actually get to them, especially when you get into the last area, where you really need to actually break those rocks open so that you can actually get enough height, because some of the geysers are a little bit higher up than other ones. Some of the ones sitting on top of the rocks are actually high up enough that, like with this one, it will boost you up decently in the air. Now, granted, this one you can actually just fly up and actually land on that little ledge and then pretty much jump straight from one cliff to the other. So that right there. It seemed to me like, oh, well, I can just ignore these and go along. No, I've ended up finding myself running into a dead end. If you see those things popping around, go ahead and hit them, just so you can actually get a little bit of a boost and get as high up in the air as the game really intends for you to. And the specific spot I'm thinking of is right around this corner here, because down there is a little rock, and I didn't think about popping it, but it lifts you up enough that if you can see the cliff and that upper edge there, you can actually hop up there. Hold on a second and I'll jump ahead and show you what I mean, because that's where we actually need to. I wandered around like an idiot for far longer than I'm willing to admit before realizing I needed to look down there and pop that rock. And as soon as you do that, oh look, wind current. And oh look, it lifts you up really, really high. High enough to hop over here to this specific cliff. And then look at that, you can actually magically follow the route in the map. I wandered in that little valley for, I don't know, a while. So don't be an idiot like me. I mean, go down there and explore all you want to, but realize that you do need to just pop that rock so you can actually get up here and get to the upper edge and then break some more of them and continue along this route. It's really not as hard as I was personally making it. So let's jump to the end of the road on this one, because there's no other little tricky places that are hard to figure out. Just remember, if in doubt, break a rock. And also, anytime you come across a caravan stand after a long linear pathway, you're probably getting ready for a boss fight, which is exactly what's getting ready to happen. Alright, so for this fight, you want to be breaking out an electric monster, if you can. Most of its different states, it's going to use technical attacks, so you'll counter them with power. So, power and electric, good combination. What you're kind of wanting to try to do, other than when he doesn't have the blue dust around him like normal, is break the legs, because you break both the legs and he enters a state where he's a little bit weaker. You also want to take out the adds on the side. It'll resummon them, but the adds can get really annoying and they can really weigh down your party. It's not that hard to break his legs. Just kill the adds and then you can focus down the legs. He's just like any other feral monster. If he goes into the state where you can actually hit the crystals, do it. Now, One thing that he does do when he goes into the web mantle sort of cocoon state, he'll switch to speed attacks. So at that point you need to swap to technical as well. But there is a bit of an issue that I found with Feral Rakna-Kadaki. He did not really go into the non-retaliatory state all that often. There are ways to still end up doing damage to the Blightstone on him, but it's a little bit trickier. A lot of those end out having to do attacks that will do just global damage, so do damage to the whole body, or whenever you can actually build up the kinship gauge, the kinship attack will do just sort of generalized attacks and it doesn't get retaliated against. So you can slowly work it down there, but if he enters a state where you can actually hit it, and get it broken. Just like any other feral monster, you break the Blightstone, the difficulty of the fight significantly drops. But this one takes me a minute, so I'll let it play out, enjoy the fight. This is actually one that requires trying to actually maintain the strategy. So take out the ads, break the legs, and then just focus in what you can and try to build up the kinship meter as quickly as you can.
This is bad.
Are you okay? Ready?
I've got this.
Now's our chance.
You did it! No! Watch out!
Don't push yourself.
I got it!
See that? The power of friendship! Now's your chance!
Over here! Nailed it! Good going.
This'll do it!
I won!
Don't push yourself.
Oh
Okay.
fair warning, you've got about 12 minutes of cinematics getting ready to come up as soon as you finish getting your camp from this fight. So if you're really wanting to take a break for the bathroom or something like that, do it before your guys really exit this thing. Like, just go ahead and hit the pause thing to have it pop up. I'll see you in a moment. I will say that's an interesting background, and I look forward to finding out more. Let's just be vague like that for the people that are, for whatever god-awful reason, watching this before they've finished it. Okay, just to be blunt, and to keep from having a really silly edit where I jump back and forth from this spot to one other place, then back to here, all you do at this point is travel back to Galyad and talk to the same person you always talk to there. And then you basically come back to this exact spot. So you can fast travel back here right after you talk to that person. And when you fast travel back here, you're going to travel to the final boss of this act. So fair warning, if you've been skipping out on the end of these videos and not watching the final boss fight, now's a good time to drop out and just go ahead and work on some habitat restoration, go do some other stuff, finish out the act on your own, and move into the next act. But for everyone that has watched up to this point that's dropping out before the end, thank you very much. And for everyone else, let's go ahead and get ready for the final fight. Now, you can manually come back here or you can drop back to that camp, but if you played Monster Hunter Wilds, seeing the sandstorm pop up like this, you know what you're getting ready to fight, and you probably just saw Rudy say it. So, time to fight Rey Dau. Really fast. In his normal state, he does speed attacks, so you counteract with technical. And in the Fulgurite Mantle state, he does power attacks, so you counteract with speed. And he is weak to ice. Other than that, just bring your strongest monster with you. For some reason, I insisted on doing this with Solseer Mizutsune, which is a water monster, so not the best choice I could have made. But I figured, why not? Let's see how hard we can make the fight. And make it hard I did. He actually takes decent damage, so it's not that terrible. You're trying to break the Fulgurite on his wings, and that'll actually flinch him and keep him from doing a really big attack. But there's some pretty cool stuff that happens in this fight. As a matter of fact, there's one little thing I'm going to cut out in the middle of it, because it's cool to get to see it. But just stick it out. This is just like any other end-chapter fight. It's a pretty challenging one. Like, he does put up a good fight. He represents the whole Apex monster thing really well, and I mean, they don't call him an Apex monster, but you know, he was in Wilds, and he was the first Apex you fought against, and to me, he actually really stands out as almost more of a flagship for the game than Arkveld was. I know Arkveld was all over the place, but for some reason, the impact I had the first time fighting Rey Dau in it really stuck with me. I feel like he's just a really cool monster, so it's a good fight. Just take your time. If you have some vitality items, they work out pretty well, but I came close to losing this because of that attack. But it ends out at a certain point. It seems like it gets easier. It may. I'm not sure, but I also know Gaul was pretty liberal with vitality things. But anyway, I'm going to go through, cut one specific part of the fight out, and just let you watch this end fight on your own. It's a fun fight. Take your time with it, and once you finish it, it's off to, well, at this point, you know, next destination is Sacrosanctum. And the pacing picks up quite a bit, as does the intensity. So, I'll see you there. Thanks for watching the video, and have a good night.
Don't overdo it. They're open!
Watch out!
See. You all right?
Thank you.
Now! They're open! Ready.
Now!
Ready?
Calm down.
Are you okay? You got it! Don't push yourself. Leave it to me! Did it work? Now! This'll do it!
Watch out! Now's your chance!
Perfect. Hurry! They're open! Ready?
Now! Let's calm down.
Counting on you. Thank you. Nice one.
Watch out!
Amazing. Yes. Well done. Ready. Give it my all!
Excellent!
I won't give up. Now!
Watch out! No! No! Let's calm down.
Are you okay?
Thanks.
All right. Murray! They're open! Now! everyone.